nation, it is important to me that this department continues to be transparent in the sharing of information to the public as it pertains to law enforcement issues. I firmly believe if the community is aware of the crime challenges, then we can all work collaboratively for a targeted response to reduce crime. While we did see some challenges in this quarter, we saw tremendous gain and successes that are a direct result, I believe, of shifts in personnel and the formation of several enforcement teams to focus on areas where we have experienced repeated violence and quality of life issues. Also, many of the successes that we experienced in the first quarter and even into the second quarter are due to working with the community, as well as our local and federal law enforcement partners. We also work very closely with our District Attorney's Office and the U.S. Attorney's Office as part of their Violent Crime Action Plan, or their VCAP, and this collaboration with our partners have been extremely impactful. Additionally, Crime Stoppers tips have played a part in helping us solve cases and hold offenders accountable. Year to date, we have had 356 Crime Stoppers tips, and we ask the public to keep sharing that information with us. To that end, I do want to encourage the public that if you see or hear anything, to please call Crime Stoppers at 919-996-1193, or to leave a tip online by visiting our Crime Stoppers website. Looking at our crime and the various categories, I'll start with homicide. In the first quarter, we experienced a 58% reduction compared to the first quarter of 2022. There were 5 incidents compared to 12 for the first quarter of 2022, and year to date we are at 7. For those committed in the first quarter, we have made arrests in 3 of the 5 for a 60% clearance. We have determined that 2 were gang-related, and arrests were made in both of those. One of the homicides occurred in the vicinity of a nightclub, and I will tell you that I have been intentional about concentrating our efforts at nightclubs where there have been shootings and murders. Our code enforcement unit has been conducting weekly inspections of bars and nightclubs to ensure that they are in compliance with city ordinances, and we are working very closely too with ALE to ensure establishments meet alcohol-related provisions. When meeting with club owners and managers, we are encouraging them to hire extra security, and also to our officers are conducted directed patrols around our nightclubs to prevent the likelihood of violence. We will continue to do that, just exactly that, as it continues to get warmer. Looking at robberies, we experienced a 64% reduction in the reported robberies from businesses. There were 12 this quarter compared to 33 in the first quarter of 2022. Of the 12, there were no concentrations or specific patterns in any part of the city. We did have 1 repeat location that fled into the second quarter, and the suspect in that case was quickly identified to end that pattern. In the first quarter, there was no change in the number of personal robberies we had. We had 91 last year, we had 91 this year. As the weather warms and the days are getting longer, more and more people are out, we are encouraging the public and urging them to be hyper-vigilant of your surroundings to prevent robberies and robbery attempts. Turning to aggravated assaults, in the first quarter, there was a slight uptick in our overall aggravated assaults, with 282 being reported versus 270 last year. These assaults included fights, stabbings, and other weapons that were used, but what continues to be disturbing to me is the fact that firearms are being used in these aggravated assaults. We saw 42% of the aggravated assaults involved firearms. Removing dangerous weapons from our streets and out of the hands of offenders continues to be a priority for RPD. When nearly half of the city's aggravated assaults involve a firearm, that is problematic. And we as a community should not be okay with that, and we should not accept it as the norm. It is important that I remind all gun owners to properly secure your firearms. I cannot stress it enough. Please do not leave them unsecured in vehicles. For the first quarter of the year, 96 firearms were stolen from vehicles in Raleigh. Year to date, we've had 162 that have been stolen. So again, it is imperative that we share with everyone, please don't leave firearms in your vehicles. Turning to property crime, I want to highlight vehicle thefts because we continue to see this type of crime occurring in our city. There was a 26% increase in motor vehicle thefts for the first quarter. And as we have seen in times past, these thefts are fairly distributed throughout our jurisdiction. The number one cause of vehicles being stolen is the fact that they're left running and also to people leave their fobs and their keys within the vehicles. As you may be aware, there is a nationwide surge in thefts in certain models of Kias and Hyundai vehicles that are not equipped with anti-theft immobilizers. In the first quarter, we experienced 74 of those thefts. That was 19% of the overall motor thefts that we had. I am thankful to Kia and Hyundai for remedying the anti-theft immobilizer issue by providing free software upgrades. If you own a Kia or a Hyundai, please contact your local dealership, or you can go to their websites for more information to see if your vehicle's on the list of those that can be stolen easily. While 386 cars were reported stolen in Raleigh in the first quarter, a total of 418 vehicles were recovered. This number does include stolen in our jurisdiction as well as other jurisdictions. I opened this press briefing by speaking of the tremendous successes we experienced in the first quarter of the year in terms of our crime reduction. I will say that a great deal of that is a result of the proactive work by our officers and our support staff. And I'd like to share a little bit of that with you. Back in January, we conducted a Friday night saturation patrol along Glenwood South and Capitol Boulevard. It resulted in 54 DWI arrests, over 100 speeding citations, 36 driving while license revoked charges, 20 drug charges, and 4 vehicle seizures, just to name a few of the charges. For that operation, we did partner with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, State Highway Patrol, Wake County Sheriff's Office, and 8 local town law enforcement agencies. It was a huge success. Our objective, of course, is to keep our streets safe, not just in Raleigh, but our entire region. We will continue to do those saturation patrols. We are continuing to focus on areas in our city where we get repeat calls for service, as well as areas that the public demand that we concentrate. They include New Bern Avenue and the Appliance Court in Capitol Boulevard area, as well as parts of our downtown where there are reports of drug activity, drug sales, violence, and car break-ins and thefts. The community has demanded that we be in those areas and that we give attention to them, and we will continue to do so to prevent victimization. One final thing I will share is the expansion of our acorns unit, our assessing crisis through outreach, referral, and networking services unit. Our incredible team of social workers and officers are making impacts every day in the lives of those experiencing mental health challenges that often lead to substance abuse and homelessness. We are in the process of hiring 3 additional social workers who will be monitoring calls and responding with officers to address the increased need that we are seeing around mental health. We are grateful for all of our city and county, faith-based and nonprofit partners that provide services to those in need. As our city continues to grow and as this region is flourishing as it is, we know that there will be increased crime and challenges in preventing crime and reducing crime. We always look to the public to assist us in reporting incidents and sharing information with us. We'd even love for the public to come and hang out with us sometimes. In fact, we have 2 events this weekend, 2 Cops on the Block events. There will be in the South Park neighborhood. We'll be on Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 11:30. If you want to come out and join us, we'd love to see you and talk with you. Our officers will be out engaged in the community, knocking on doors, just trying to get to know everybody and see how they are doing. We really want to do everything we can to break the barriers that exist between police and community. Again, thank you for joining us today. I will now open it up to any questions that you may have of my staff and me.
Any questions?
Yes. As you may know, it is budget season. So what is the department specifically looking for in terms of additional funding?
Yeah, so there are needs always with the department. Of course, we're looking at salaries. We're also looking at equipment needs. The city manager will be presenting her budget to council on May 16th. So we're all waiting to see exactly what's going to be included in that.
Aaron?
I was planning on speaking with a gentleman who's pretty active in trying to stop crime here in the city.
Yes.
I was just curious about your take on the violence interrupter programs here, and basically how they're helping to get crime to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that there's certain jurisdictions that do have violence, spot shot or violence interrupter. We are not opposed to it necessarily. I'd like to always take a proactive approach to crime fighting, and so whatever that entails. We've had conversations about violence interrupters. We've had conversations about shot spotter and other technology. So I'm open to it.
Just
changing up the budget was a little bit. We reported about, in the past a little bit about officer shortages, or is it still impacting the department, and where do things stand? Are you still actively looking to continue to hire more officers?
Yes, we're constantly hiring officers, looking to recruit officers into our police department. Our vacancy rate is still at about 100. It does fluctuate quite a bit because we are doing intensive hiring. We just graduated a large class last week, which we're extremely proud of, and we're going to continue to hire and recruit.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.